So I was checking out some free agents at the end of this year and trying to find either some value one way or the other with some players that maybe either underperforming or overperforming or just trying to poke my head into some swings. And granted, I don't know like all the details of all the players in terms of how they are in the clubhouse, effort, teammates, any of that stuff. But I stumbled upon LaMonte Wade Jr. because I remember watching him in a big league game not that long ago and really liking his swing from the naked eye, but I'd never really slowed it down. And I was curious because he was having what seemed to be like a down year this year. I tried to look into his numbers, look into his spray charts and heat maps, and he seems to be a guy who kind of pulls the ball a little too much, and just hadn't really had the best year this year. Um, you know, and curious if maybe he could be a guy that if a team kind of if he made some adjustments, a team could get some value out of um, you know at the end of this year or at some point turning into a free agent. So I wanted to just kind of look at his swing a little bit and make some observations and go from there. And um, a couple things really stood out to me. So first of all, I think from right here, I really like this setup, or like, I can't really, this video doesn't have the beginning of this load, but I like this as a position, to start. Certainly, I think, like if I was being nitpicky, this bat is pretty laid off. So, if we kept this line kind of going, we kind of see it point, you know, a little too flat and horizontal. In a perfect world, it'd be kind of be pointing a little bit back towards the catcher, or the catcher's helmet, or his shoulder. Um, but nevertheless, like I really like this load here, this initial position. But as we kind of stride out, um, you can kind of see him get fairly uphill here. Um, and so if we were to draw some lines again, um, our old trustworthy three lines, like some pretty uphill knees, um, pretty uphill hip, and then definitely some level shoulders, which I like. But again, this is still just like a little bit flat, and so when you start to see these components where you have kind of an uphill lower body and a laid off bat, generally you're going to get a lot of balls that have a lot of side spin, top spin. I don't really know if he does that a lot, but um, and you're going to get a lot of balls to the pull side. So this is going to kind of produce a spray chart that I think is pretty indicative of what um, LaMonte Wade Jr. spray chart actually does look like, which is a lot of stuff to the pull side, a lot of power to the pull side, but not a ton of driving the ball to the opposite field. And I think that contributes to like a low batting average generally, and not staying through the zone, and not necessarily being able to adjust to a lot of pitches. And so um, you know I think we'll see more of that as we scrub through this. And so I like I like this. I think it's good, but again, like if I was being nitpicky, you can kind of see both of his elbows and his upper body kind of just go together, like not a ton of articulation between his back leg and his front leg. And so when we get into contact, this is probably not the best contact position. This is a home run, by the way. Um, and so again, if we were to try to like draw an angle here, this is a pretty wide angle. We don't really get him pulling on the knob and the bat with kind of both his arm. We kind of get this like, I don't know, everything going together motion, which again, I think you can hit that way, but you're going to have some things to overcome. And so when he gets to contact, he's kind of stuck on himself with this position, and you can really see this kind of rip out towards the first base dugout. And so he kind of has no real extension out into the kind of big part of the field. And granted, this is a ball he pulls that's down the line, and so that has a lot to do with it. Um, but if we kind of get to contact here, just before contact, we kind of compare him to Canerco. This is again a ball that Canerco pulls, and so yeah, certainly the pitches are going to have something to do with it, but the difference between these two contact positions are pretty big, right? And so if we look at the arm structure here, um, this is a very different position. And then if we continue through contact, we can really see like one, two, three, four, I mean, even five maybe frames that Kanerko is kind of extending out into the kind of field of play. Whereas you can see LaMonte Wade just kind of rip out of there. And so you kind of have this uphill kind of stride or gather with kind of an upper body that kind of rips to the right. And so I think that there's, room for improvement here. And so, obviously if we could figure out a way to, get kind of a bigger space here in between, LaMonte Wade's arm structure and have it continue out. Maybe there's some value there. In free agency, et cetera. Who knows? I think a lot of the big pieces of his load and things like that are pretty good. I certainly think he could clean up some things. But I certainly think that this position here that we can see that we kind of accidentally paused on is kind of stopping him, right? This elbow is kind of trapped against his shoulder back here, or his ribs back here, and he can't really get into the strike zone early and continue out for a long time, and I think that causes some issues. So anyway, those are just some thoughts on that I had on LaMonte Wade. I was looking through a lot of the free agents this year and just trying to find again just some value for where these guys could land and if teams could kind of grab them up, make adjustments, and who knows, maybe make a good investment. So cool. That's my thoughts on LaMonte Wade Jr. and yeah, we'll talk soon.